Hi, what's up everybody? My name is Scott, and this is going to be a video titled The SpoilerCast, Episode 10. It might be Episode 11. I don't check the number of the episode before I begin recording, so it could be anything. So, look at this man. Look at this man holding his brush. He's holding his brush, and he's wiping his legs. Oh my god. He's gripping it. Oh, it's in his hand now. Good. I was worried that there was a magic epidemic around London. Basically, the spoiler cast, when we're not looking at men brushing their trouser legs and such, I will be spoiling this game and talking about it at length. So, if you don't know the game, it's Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And if you don't know what spoiling things means, it means telling you about all of the stuff that happens in the story of the game and the gameplay and stuff. So if you don't want it spoiled, you should probably leave. That's usually what happens in a spoiler cast. You leave if you have not played the game. So basically, Han Solo almost spoiled Star Wars for you, didn't I? Basically, you play as this lady. You should have been gone by now. She doesn't die, she's here. Jacob Fry, also her brother. You can switch between them on the fly. I could do that right now if I wanted. Or apparently unable to switch character this time, probably because I was in mid-air or something. So you can switch between them. You can play as male character, female character, twin, brother and sister. Yeah, this is him, Jacob. He's a cool guy. Evie's a cool girl. I like them a lot. I like that they've got a nice dynamic in the game. It's sort of like Grand Theft Auto 5, you know, like the three protagonists in that game are very different, and obviously they had to do the same thing here. You can just make two characters that are the same. So Jacob is he's a guy. Let me change his clothes. Do I have new things that I can put on him? Do I have anything new? No, this is the best belt. Do I have new clothes? Evie got clothes, that white outfit that I was just wearing. Did he not get an equivalent outfit for getting all of the collectibles? Guess he didn't. It's a little bit odd, but anyway, these characters. Of course, Jacob he's a tough guy. He wants to unite London and to take out all of the bad things that are happening in London, whereas Evie is sort of the opposite of that. She wants to focus on higher things in life, I guess, which involve getting precursor artifacts like, you know, apples of Eden and all that shit, which I'll probably talk about in a bit. She likes going after all that assassin type stuff, whereas Jacob is very much a man of the streets, very much like myself. I am definitely what you would call a man of the streets, and I usually proliferate around the ghettos whenever I get a spare moment, you know, when I'm not recording videos about spoiling video games. So I like that they have a nice dynamic. They're very different, and obviously they're sort of different belief sets. As I've said, Jacob, man of the streets. Evie, woman of higher class sort of business, and obviously it causes a bit of trouble in that they don't really get along sometimes, because they're both, you know, going along on different missions and stuff like that. But they fall out, which is something that I don't really like in movies. They always have this trope where, like, you know, they have like a difference and then they make up at the end, and it's sort of the same here. They have a bit of a falling out, like, towards the very end of the game, where they're gonna have one final mission, which is the last mission, and then they're gonna call it a day. But then they learn that they're both valuable members, and they both worked well together in the Assassin's Creed, and they put aside the differences. It's a bit of a false, sort of forced thing that they throw into a lot of stuff, I think, anyway. But yeah, nevertheless, I still like them. I think that they work really well together. I think they're very funny. I think Jacob in particular is a very funny man. Evie has her funny moments too. But Jacob in particular, I think he's quite a witty sort of guy. He's witty in the way that, like, Arno from Assassin's Creed Unity was witty. He's witty in the way that Ezio was witty, but he's also a little bit more different. He's sort of less of a ladies' man, I would assume, than Ezio and stuff like that. That's sort of, oh Jesus, a horse. Good God. I think that's a very inefficient way to sit. You know, you should, like, I know sometimes you probably pick people up in your little carriage, but when there's no one else in it, you could maybe be driving down below. Maybe you wouldn't be able to see them. That's a fair point. Oh, bye-bye. So I like them. I like that they're funny. I like that they play well together. They have nice opposites. They wear cool clothes, which I enjoy. I enjoy that he has a hat on him. I enjoy that I changed the color of his robes to white because I thought it was sort of traditional, you know, sort of assassin-ish. You know, I'm not really a fan of the black. I think black is more of a Templar color. It's a bit too ordinary for me. So we're going to go in here, we're going to talk to Charles Dickens, and we'll move on to something else that I sort of dislike. We see this nice screenshot, not screenshot because it's a video, it's moving. We see that every time, which gets a little bit annoying. But you know, they needed to fill in time some way. Of course, Charles Dickens. Of course I'll follow you. Oh goodness. A bollard has obstructed my path. What's blocking my path? Oh, Charles Dickens is blocking my path. Oh no. Oh no. Oh goodness. Sorry, Dickens. Sorry. Another
legend claims the attic is haunted by the spirit of a young woman who reportedly threw herself from the top floor windows to escape her abusive uncle. Her screaming ghost has reportedly been sighted hanging from the window ledge. This residence was briefly owned by a Mr. James Jasper, a choir master and an organ addict. His nephew Edward was betrothed to one of Mr. Jasper's pupils, the fair and delicate Rose. However, Edward disappeared under mysterious circumstances, followed by Jasper himself. Perhaps grief sent him back to the soothing arms of his narcotic mistress.
This is a lovely story. This is a really heartwarming story. So one of the biggest issues I have, you know, Charles Dickens, he's a fine young lad in this game. He may be stronger than the entire force of gravity, you know, but I think that he's interesting enough. But I feel that
some say it comes alive at night with screams of terror.
You have described this place in quite enough detail, Charlie. Would you please be quiet so I can investigate and speak about you? So basically, what I think about Charles Dickens and what I think about Charles Darwin, what I think about, wait for it, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is not Sir Arthur Conan Doyle yet, but he's known as Artie, which bothers me significantly. It's the fact that these characters are not... They're not supposed to just fall into the path of your protagonists. Like you literally bump into Charles Dickens like in this third mission or something like that, and then he's just there for the rest of the game, and you're best friends, and you're going on ghost hunting adventures as we're doing now, and then it's like, oh yeah, look, world famous communist writer and philanthropist, I guess, Karl Marx. Yes, he's just walking along, and you happen to bump into him and help him do all of his nice class conflict stuff that he's doing. You know, it's like why are we bumping into these random people? And I feel like they're trying to cater to an audience which really doesn't understand Victorian London or know much about it, which is okay, because it's a way of teaching people history simplistically, I guess. It's, you know, it's nice, but at the same time, it's sort of like, why do all these people need to be shoved in here? It's not even like the characters themselves, it's the sheer volume of the characters that they're... I don't think we've had so many characters that aren't even integral to the story. Like Assassin's Creed 3, you have like George Washington, you have like Ben Franklin and stuff, but I'm pretty sure they were working with the assassins, or at least had some sort of relationship with them, whereas like I don't even know if Charles Dickens knows about the assassins.
This phenomenon is easily produced by pneumatic tubes and valves. There are claims that a young man was caged in the attic, his only connection to the rest of the world a tiny hole in the door. The young man was reduced to madness by this extreme
That's interesting, Charles. So, oh god, there's a rocking baby carriage. So basically, yeah, like the sheer volume of people, it's like we've got him, we've got Florence Nightingale, we have Karl Marx, we have Charles Darwin, we have Queen Victoria, we have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, we have Detective Aberline, and then there's the DLC, which also has Jack the Ripper in it. We have just too many. Also, there's the World War One bits, which we'll get onto momentarily. They have Winston Churchill in it as well. It's just sort of like, who was around in this sort of period, and we'll just throw them in. We'll just throw them in, you know, especially the Arthur Conan Doyle one, which really bothers me, because I knew going into this game that there was going to be some sort of Sherlock Holmes reference. And, you know, they didn't just have a Sherlock Holmes reference, they actually have the author of Sherlock Holmes as a 9-year-old boy in the game, helping you do investigations. And he's not only like Sherlock Holmes, but he's almost just like the character. Like, he's not only just like him, he essentially is a young version of the Sherlock Holmes character, which is entirely disingenuous, because Sherlock Holmes is a character that does not exist, because the whole thing about Sherlock Holmes, like his ratiocination, or whatever that theory is called, is that character doesn't exist, because it's impossible for somebody to be able to pinpoint ideas like that, and it's impossible to think that logic works in that sort of way. But now in this game, I know this is a video game and all that sort of thing, it's not real, but if they're trying to go for sort of historical accuracy in the cities and like the way it looks and all that sort of thing, they should maybe be doing that with the characters as well, because there is no way that a young Arthur Conan Doyle was in London in 1868 and running around helping people do investigations just like Sherlock Holmes. Like, there's no way at all. So I have an issue with that, and I feel like maybe people should just not play video games for history in that type of way, in this wholly ridiculous way. Maybe they should just read like a novel or something. Maybe somebody should just pick up a Charles Dickens novel. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll pick up a Charles Dickens novel. Maybe they'll pick up Origin of the Species and read that, because Charles Darwin's in this. Who knows? You know. But that's sort of a gripe that I have with the game. It's one of my few sort of negative points. Something more positive maybe is that the inclusion of the World War One section, which is a big spoiler, but it's the SpoilerCast, so it doesn't even matter. There is a World War One. Oh shit! I just went through that lamppost. Can I do it again? I can. They have not made this lamppost well. Spoilers. This lamppost is not the way it should be. What do you think? You don't even care about the lamppost. Whoa! You're rude, aren't you? You're rude. You know what, I'm gonna fucking... That's it. Yeah. Well, I can kill this civilian. The civilian was very rude to me. There you go. Night-night, lady. So, the World War One section. So, there's a certain point in the game, I'm not sure when it is, because I just sort of found it on my map. I will show you right now, in fact, unless it's not there. But around this area, there is a little thing that you can go to, sort of like an opening in the world, which will take you to 1916, which is during World War One in London. And this all began through an investigation as to why the Tower of London was not in the game, because for those of you that don't know, and that's probably all of you, apart from maybe one, but I was in Germany, and when I was in Germany, this isn't a World War One joke, by the way, this is a serious thing. I went to Gamescom, and when I was at Gamescom, I played a level of this, and I was in the Tower of London. And I got to the game, and I was like, oh, let's look at the Tower of London, see what that looks like. And I'm like, this is literally where the Tower of London is. Like, just past this monument, which is called Monument, oddly enough, Tower of London is like right there. And I was like, why is the Tower of London not here? And it's because they have segregated the whole Tower Bridge area off in this game and placed it in World War One times, which is probably because... I don't know. Probably because Tower Bridge isn't a thing in the Victorian period, so they didn't want to waste not having Tower Bridge in the game, so they cut that section off, put it in World War One times, and it's pretty cool. There's like bombings and stuff like that, air raids. There's zeppelins. Winston Churchill's there. He's telling you to kill spies and stuff, and there's you go to the Tower of London, obviously, you do some assassinations there. You play, interestingly, as the granddaughter of Jacob, which is pretty cool. We don't really get a resolution in the main story, which is something that I was kind of disappointed about. Like, we don't really get a reason as to why that's his granddaughter, like who Jacob's wife is, who Jacob's daughter is, or son, like, which I would have been interested in seeing maybe at the end. We don't really get any closure at the end as to where these characters are going next, if they're going anywhere at all. So we don't really get to see why. Oh god. Charlie's away. He's gone. Oh, sorry. He took a lot of shots to kill, didn't he? He took a lot of shots. Let's loot his body. I'll just pick him up. Oh, he's still alive, apparently. According to the signs. What? That's Jacob. It doesn't sound like Jacob. Jacob sounds a little bit different than that. It's a bit strange that we can do this. But let's take him with us. Is there an open window that I can maybe throw him out of? No. I can throw him down the stairs. I think it's square. Yeah, there we go. See you later. Is there a window down here that I can throw him out? I feel like there should be. No. Oh well. What was he talking about? Oh yeah, World War One. So you play as Lydia Fry, who is working with Churchill. Sort of. I don't think he's a member of the Assassins. He seems to have his own agenda, and that he's trying to get World War One spies, which was a big deal. German spies in London at the time. So it's all centered around that. It's really interesting. It sort of maybe proves that World War One or the modern era, you know, post 1900 could work in an Assassin's Creed game. It sort of gives, you know, an indication of that.
Has been discredited. There was no ghost in Berkeley Square.
No, there wasn't. There was not.
Driven to murder and madness by guilt and intoxication. I think
Yeah.
this is the makings of a rather fine novel. I wonder if I've got one left in me.
You don't. Unfortunately, Charles Dickens, you will be dead in less than 2 years. So, you should really probably not get your hopes up that you're going to be able to write another novel. So yeah, the World War One thing, it sort of gives hope that there will be a modern game one day and that it can definitely work. And I think maybe the team that are building this game, maybe in, I don't know, more than that, probably 3-4 years will make a World War One game or a World War Two game. And I think that the groundwork is there, you know, obviously for using weapons. There are people who have rifles and stuff, and then you have a pistol. You have pistols in this as well, the main game in the Victorian era. There are also vehicles which you can't actually drive, but they're on the streets. The streets are wide. Obviously they're quite wide here. There are air raids, as I said. There are bombings and stuff like that. You know, there's an aesthetic there which they seem to have nailed pretty well. It feels different than this. You know, it definitely feels like it's approaching sort of like that flapper stage. I don't know. Do I even know what the word flapper means? I feel like it's a type of dance from the 20s maybe, or like it's a type of girl or dress or something to do with dancing or parties, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, they've got that whole aesthetic down, and I think that they've made good groundwork for you know, going into the modern era, even with this game as well. Like, obviously the wide streets, using this zip line, which works really well actually. I actually think it's pretty fun. It's fun zipping around the city. It's fun being able to just go up buildings if you want to take that option rather than climbing up them. You can just go right up and you feel a little bit like Batman, which is always good. I quite enjoy that. And so they've got the wide streets. They've got this grapple thing which could help you from getting about in the modern era, because obviously if you're in like New York City, you know, there's not going to be just buildings and buildings and buildings. Like, you know, they're not going to be just falling on top of one another. There'd be something, you know, separating them, like wide streets, all that sort of thing. Not that there would be a World War II game in New York City, but that's an example of where it could be. You know, Berlin would probably be the ideal location if they're going to do a World War II game. Even if they're going to do a World War I game, they can maybe do it there. But I think that might be a bit of a waste, because Berlin would be a much more interesting place with like bombings, and because that city was pretty destroyed during the war. That'll be kind of an interesting sort of aesthetic, like going through rubble and that sort of thing. They also have these carriages. I've already driven a carriage, I think, in this video. So that they have sort of a system down for cars, I suppose. Like, I mean, the cars in the early 20th century really wouldn't be that different from obviously there wouldn't be a horse, but it would be sort of rickety as well. Sort of this like going from side to side movement would probably be pretty accurate for like you know, an early 20th century car. So I think that they've really set a groundwork for a 20th century game, which I sort of was against it for quite a while. Like I kind of felt like it was, I don't know, it doesn't really work with the weapons per se. They haven't really got that down yet. They've got rifles and they've got pistols and stuff, but they haven't necessarily got the whole machine gun, rocket launcher like mentality that would be going on in like World War II. You know, they don't really have anything going on there. So I think you'd be at a disadvantage if you were an assassin, because I don't think an assassin could be running around the rooftops carrying like a Tommy gun or an M1 Garand or something like that. Like, I don't think that would really work very well. But then again, they might change up the gameplay completely, and then maybe not have that much climbing. Which I guess, what's the point then if you're not going to have like the main sort of trait that these games are known for, you know? But yeah, I think that would be interesting. Though the rumor obviously is that the next game's going to be in ancient Egypt, so they're going to go way in the opposite direction. Probably they could have chariot racing though, which would be quite interesting. Maybe that's why they've developed these carts to work so well, because they're going to have chariots and stuff. That'll be kind of cool. But yeah, nonetheless, I'd like them to do a modern game. I think that'd be kind of cool. So, goodness me, you bad man, you villain. There you go. And I'll ram you for good measure. Okay, so the things that are in the story of the game. Basically, as I already mentioned, Jacob is a man who's trying to reclaim London from these bad men who are known as the Blighters in the game. I don't know if that's some reference to an actual London gang or not, but it's definitely slang for someone who's a bad person in English. So Jacob is trying to do that, and Evie is trying to get a mysterious object known as the Shroud, which is not that mysterious because it's the same as every other goddamn piece of Eden that they find in these games. It's a glowy white and gold object that does some magic stuff. Maybe that's what the man who had the broom at the beginning of the video had, and that's why he was freaking out so much. Maybe he had one of those in his pants or something, I don't know. But this is a shroud which is supposed to provide immortality because it comes from precursor DNA or something like that. So Evie is trying to get that to take it out of the hands of the Templars, whereas Jacob is sort of just trying to help the city grow, to get rid of poverty, to get rid of like the workhouses and the chimney sweeps, and you know, he's really, if anyone is going to meet Karl Marx and have a good time with him, it's probably Jacob, because Jacob seems to be all in for that sort of, you know, rising up, revolting, protesting mentality, which is good. And I said before that I like the dynamic between the two of them. So Evie's also interesting. Let's switch back to Evie, and we'll if we're going to talk about her, we might as well have her in the room or in the city or whatever you want to call it. So she's having some trouble, of course, with Henry, and Henry is a man. Let's go see Henry. Actually, I'm sure he's on the train. We also have a train which we can use. Where is it? There it is. We can fast travel here, and this is pretty much our portable base, which goes around the city, which is kind of nice. So she is friends with Henry, Winky Face. She's a bit more than friends with Henry, and Henry is an assassin who's from India, and I'm not sure if he's ever been in anything like a comic or something before, but it seems like he's a bit of an established character. He's not really given much detail. You know, there's not much, we don't really know that much about him, but he seems to be a nice guy, and he wears earrings, and he has a nice white outfit, and Evie now has a nice white outfit which will match his. You know, I quite like that. So there's that they have going for them, and she is torn between the assassins and between being in love with this nice man called Henry Green, which I like. I like that they did that. They gave us something that's never really been done before in these games. It's sort of, I feel like that's another trope which is used quite a lot. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there's always something tearing somebody. I guess Star Wars is the perfect example, where Anakin can't be with your woman Padme. They're both annoying anyway. So yeah, she can't be with him because he's a man and because she's sworn to her mission. Not that she's celibate or anything like that, but because she doesn't want any emotional feelings getting in the way of killing people and, you know, stabbing policemen and all that sort of thing. Henry Green is not on the train, so I cannot show you Henry. I thought he was going to be here, but he's not here, which is disappointing. I'm glad that we have this little shopkeep, though. You're not even behind the bar. You're a disaster. So I like that they have a weird sort of, I don't know why I said the word weird. I didn't really mean weird, but I meant interesting is the word I meant. So that's probably enough absinthe for the day, if you know what I mean. So they have an interesting dynamic. No absinthe involved, thankfully. You know, Evie isn't drugging men to fall in love with her, which is good. It's usually something that I would do, but you know, different strokes for different folks. I guess that's the saying. So she has that, and then by the end of it, of course, she finds out that she is able to love while also being an assassin, which of course is the most important thing. You know, if you can't love somebody while you're like running blades that come out of your wrists into their throat, then like who can you really love? I mean, that's pretty nice. So that happens. That's her sort of little arc, which is resolved at the end of the game. But as I was saying, yeah, there's not much of a resolution for any of the characters. Of course, you do a lot of missions towards the end for Queen Victoria, and then casually nicely, of course, she knights Evie and Jacob and Henry. And so we have Dame Evie Fry and Sir Jacob Fry and all this sort of thing, which is, it's kind of cool that they got knighted at the end. But we don't really, they just sort of run off and it's all happy and they're having a wonderful time, which is great. But we don't really get a sense of where these characters are going, and we don't really get a nice progression like we have done. So I think that these characters are probably just below Ezio in terms of the best characters in the series, in terms of protagonists anyway. Yeah, but I think it would be nice for Assassin's Creed to maybe get back to, I don't know, to get back to giving me a narrative that spans many years. You know, I would really like it if they would focus on developing characters for more than one game, or like setting up characters that are going to be in more than one game, because I think that they're getting into a position where it's the world and the time period that matters. So it's like, okay, here's the London game, here's the Paris game, and next they'll have the ancient Egypt game, and then they'll maybe have the ancient Rome game and the ancient Greece game, you know, that sort of thing. And they're going to focus on like beautiful visuals and getting the cities accurate and making, you know, the gameplay better and better, which is great and everything. But at the same time, I think that the characters, in terms of their like development, you know, they're suffering somewhat, because even though these characters are great and I really, really like them, I think that there's sort of, it's just like Jacob is sort of for the people, Evie's for the Brotherhood. You know, and they don't really change that much other than they learn sort of mutual respect at the end of the game. So I think it would be nice if we sort of saw a nice progression, you know, because Ezio is a very different character at the beginning of Assassin's Creed 2 than the Ezio that's at the end of Revelations. Like, he's like an older guy, he's like in his 50s then, and I think he starts off Assassin's Creed 2 when he's 17. So there's a big progression there, there's a big leap. We get to see pretty much his entire life. We actually do get to see his entire life, essentially, because we see him being born at the beginning beginning of 2. And even Arno, to an extent, 2 obviously only got 1 game as well. Big Ben, of course. Before we move on, we need to recognize that this Big Ben, this clock face is miraculous. I really like this clock face. Does the thing move? It does move. It does move, didn't notice that. But it is pretty miraculous, this clock face. I like it. I like that the hands are done in matte finish. They've got a nice sort of smoothness to them. So I entirely appreciate this clock face. So Arno, yeah, he was from Unity, of course, and we don't see him being born, but we see him as a child in the 1780s, of course, and then we see him go from maybe 88 to 93 or something like that. We see him like over like a 5-year span then, and he sort of grows. He goes from being like, you know, an apprentice to not master assassin, but then he starts working with Napoleon, that sort of thing. And I would have really liked to have seen him, you know, progress past that and maybe get a pretty important position with Napoleon, and maybe see a game in the Napoleonic Wars or something like that, which I thought, I was almost 100% convinced that's where Arno was going to go to. But then Arno was just sort of left, and then the same with Connor in Assassin's Creed 3. We only got 1 game with him. We don't know what happens with him. So I think and if it does move on to Egypt, then obviously Evie and Jacob were not born in like 2000 BC or whatever, so they're not going to be there unless they're going to be very, very, very premature zygotes or something like that. But then again, that won't happen because their mother wasn't alive. But you never know. Maybe some time travel will happen, but I really, really, really doubt that. So yeah, I think that it would be nice for them to focus on furthering these protagonists. Like, it would be really nice if we had, I don't know, a 3-game series or like a trilogy with these characters. Maybe that would be great. We could maybe, I don't know, have like the next game. They've already done this, obviously. They've done the Jack the Ripper DLC, which I should get to playing. I think I would like that. Wow, you can see the inside there, but you can't get in. That's a disappointing thing. Before we move on, you can't get into like some of the big monuments in this game, like you could do in Unity, and you could pretty much do in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and yeah, Revelations as well. You can see inside here. And when I went to London, I couldn't get into Westminster Abbey. This is in real life, by the way, not in the game, because it was closed the day that I went, and I really wanted to see inside. And I was like, oh, I can see inside now, because I know I could look up a picture. But a JPEG has nothing on, you know, running awkwardly over the ceiling or whatever. You know, I can't cling to surfaces that I'm clinging to by accident in real life and then awkwardly jumping off them into haystacks. If I just look up a JPEG, I want to be in that nice building. I want to be in there, and I want to listen to these men now playing some nice music. Can I interrupt them? Yeah. Oh god. You've dropped your cello. Oh god. What the hell? Who's firing a gun? You're firing a gun? Was that lady in the green? Oh, this guy's trying to escape, but he's having some trouble. He's having some difficulties escaping. Oh, there you go. Sirs, you've left all your instruments here. You've left them all. What was I saying? I don't even know. I forgot now. Oh yeah, I was talking about being inside Westminster Abbey, which was not my actual train of... That was a sidebar to the actual conversation that I was having with myself. Can't remember. This is why I should definitely not interrupt myself when doing videos, because I cannot remember what I've just talked about, because I may or may not have early onset Alzheimer's. That could be a joke. That might not be a joke. Up to you. Take it whatever way you want. So, oh god, what's gonna happen? Now I'm inside the carriage. Now I'm definitely in this carriage. I'm definitely in the carriage. What am I gonna do? I can actually, oh okay. That's a good fix for that glitch. Fuck off. You children, can I kill the children? No, they won't let you kill the children. And kill the man, though. Yeah, okay. Just won't let me kill the children. What was I talking about? Let's retrace my steps. I was talking about Westminster Abbey. I was talking about giving... Yes, okay. Yeah. So if we give maybe Jacob and Evie another game, then we could maybe set that game in the 1880s when Jack the Ripper was around. That would be quite interesting. We could have a whole game maybe set around Jack the Ripper. Maybe... I don't know how the actual Jack the Ripper DLC plays out, so this is only me theorizing what happens. Maybe Jacob could actually be Jack the Ripper. That'd be kind of interesting, because his name, it does begin with the Jake, which could be weirdly translated into the word Jack. I don't know. That could be something. So we could have one in the 1880s. Maybe Evie has to kill him, and he has a young daughter and stuff. And then maybe you would play as Evie as an older woman, and then his daughter in an early 1900s game. I don't know, something like that. Like, it would be nice to see these characters explored a little bit more, but you know, what can you do? They're not going to do that. They're just interested in having different time periods full of historical figures that they can just shove down people's throats, which is a bit disappointing. So the rest of the story, the rest of things. Okay, so there are lots of Templars, and they're all sort of sorted into different groups. So there's like one that controls transport in the city, there's one that controls politics within the city, there's one that controls waste management. I don't think that's a real thing. There's one that controls all the instruments that get knocked over when people bump into them. There's people that control the trees growing, and I killed them all because that was the story. And so I think it's cool that they're all kind of they're trying to individualize the not protagonists, the opposite of that, the antagonists again, because they hadn't really done that since like Assassin's Creed 2 or something. Like, they really, like, I can't really even name any protagonists, or not why do I keep saying that, antagonists from any game since 2. I don't think, like, no like smaller ones. I can maybe name like the main sort of villain, but not the small ones. So in this, they're kind of trying to individualize them by giving them their own sort of sections throughout the city, which is nice, and it also leads to Jacob's assassinations of them, because he's a guy trying to disrupt the sort of malevolent power structures to free the workers and all that sort of thing, which is interesting. It's interesting that they've melded the antagonists with social structures in the Victorian period, which I appreciate. In terms of like how they're used and stuff, I feel like they're a little bit weak sometimes still. Like, I feel like they're cool and interesting in their own sort of way for the time that we spend with them, but then at the same time they're only in it for like one mission, or maybe two. I think like the doctor guy, I can't remember his name. What is his name? We'll check it right now. Progression log, Templar conspiracy. This guy, John Elliotson, who was a son of a chemist and apothecary. So he's a guy who experiments on dead bodies and probably living bodies also, because he seemed like he was kind of a twisted guy in this mental asylum and stuff. And it's a pretty interesting assassination mission. You need to disguise yourself as a dead body and then hide under the sheet, and then he brings you into this huge medical examination room, and then he's giving sort of a lecture on processes with like the brain and that sort of thing, and then you come out of the sheet and surprise him and kill him. It's all quite interesting, but it's slightly disappointing that that's the only time we see him or hear anything about him, and then he's just dead. So it would have been So yeah, it would have been kind of nice to get more time with these guys. Same with I'm forgetting his name as well. We'll check his name while we're at it. No, Lord Cardigan. Oh, dear me. Bless myself. Lord Cardigan, yeah, he's interesting. But we only get to really see him in 2 cutscenes, I think, and then we see him in his assassination mission. He's sort of like a really pompous political guy who was at the... Oh god, I can't remember the name of the poem. The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So he's involved within the events of the Charge of the Light Brigade, where he was one of the sort of cowardly generals who wasn't killed when all the other British troops were killed and that sort of thing, and that's sort of like his backstory, in that he survived and yet he can't stop talking about this battle, and he's totally fixated on it, and basically everybody wants him to shut up about it, but he won't, because he's so full of himself essentially. I think they're all really interesting characters, but we don't get to spend enough time with them. One character that we do get to spend a lot of time with, who I appreciated as well, actually two. There's Maxwell Roth, who is the leader of the Blighters, who is the enemy gang, and he's sort of he's using a theatre in the Strand area of London as a front for his sort of illegal activities and that sort of thing, and he puts a play on when he begins working with Jacob to assassinate the main guy, who's Crawford Starrick, and then eventually he goes against you because he wants to kill some children, and Jacob, of course, much like the game, does not want children to be killed, and so he goes against he goes against Maxwell Roth. Maxwell Roth. Let's have a look at him, actually. I'm a big fan of this menu, that's why I keep going into it. Maxwell Roth, there he is. So he's sort of this gentleman. He's a bit creepy. He's very cockney, and he wants to kill children. Doesn't really care who gets in his way, so that he can earn money essentially. And yeah, Jacob's not happy with that. And the guy lures Jacob into his theatre and then sets it on fire with all of the public inside, and then burns it down essentially, and weirdly gives Jacob a kiss before he dies. I don't know whether there's some homoerotic things going on there with that guy. Maybe he was gay. I didn't really get it. Well, I didn't really get a feeling for that. I'm not too sure. He called Jacob darling a lot. So maybe he did have a thing for Jacob, which, you know, fair enough. Maybe he was just very theatrical. I think that might have been another trait of his character, that he was theatrical. So that's probably why he gave Jacob a little kiss just before he died, which is kind of cool. Kind of a cool moment. Bit of a weird moment, but different for like those, you know, for anyone who knows Assassin's Creed, you have those big white screens or white rooms when you kill a target, and then they talk to the assassin who just assassinated them, and yeah, he gave him a little kiss, which is very nice. I'm sure Jacob really appreciated that, getting kissed by a near dead cockney man in a burning theatre. I mean, who wouldn't like that? Who wouldn't like that? So there's that character, and then there's Crawford Starrick, who is the main villain, who wants to he's kind of blinded by his own beliefs, and he thinks that he's helping London when he's really just a horrible man. He's killing everyone in his way and increasing poverty and doing lots of bad things. And he also has a pretty good moustache. It's a moustache that I'm a fan of. And there's a really great scene. I think it's after you kill... I'm gonna knock this man's bail off. Oh, did I knock your wickets down? Did I ruin your little game of cricket? Oh goodness. Oh goodness me. So yeah, it's after you kill Crawford Starrick's love interest, who is also his cousin. So he's not the only one that's doing oddly erotic things with inappropriate situations. And you kill her, and then he's very upset, and he's playing the piano in a very melancholy fashion, and then he shoots his butler or servant dead for interrupting him while he plays his piano, and it's a really good scene. I'm not going to show you it now because I have no way of doing that really unless I replay the whole assassination mission, which I don't want to do. So there's that. You should go look that up. I don't know what you could look up for that. Maybe Crawford Starrick piano, maybe Assassination 5, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I don't know. I'm not Google. Believe it or not, I am 100% the opposite of Google. I am 100% the opposite of that. So I think he's a pretty good villain. I think he's very scary, and there's a lot of time given to him. He's the one villain that we spend quite a bit of time with. We get a good sense of who he is, what he's doing, and how terrifying he is for our characters. And he obviously at the end gets the shroud, and he wears it for a little while, and he's immortal for a minute or two. But then of course we kill him, and then he's dead. But before that, he was pretty scary. Something that I don't appreciate is the fact that they continue to not shove the present day stuff down our throats, because in the other games I happen to like the present day a lot, but it feels just like they're not committing to it anymore. Like they're not committing to it enough for it to be sort of a viable thing in these games anymore. It feels like it's just like an afterthought, like maybe even more than it was in Unity. Like, for those of you that don't know, spoilers for Unity now. I don't have a SpoilerCast for Unity, maybe one day, but I kind of forget what happens in that, so I maybe can't talk about that too authoritatively. But in that, there's essentially like 3 cutscenes, maybe, where you see stuff happening in the present day, following this new woman who's training you. So basically, your present day character is someone called an initiate, who's helping the assassins find precursor artifacts, and this is one of the simulations where that is found, where the precursor artifacts found. Yeah. So it's essentially the same in this, only there's a more prominent position for characters that were in the other games. So Sean and Rebecca are in this. I can't exactly remember. Oh yeah, you're doing a good job protecting the Queen. You did a real good job there. You definitely protected her. She's safe and sound. You're doing a proud service for this country, sir. Goodbye. So yeah, Sean and Rebecca, and they're great. I like those two. I like Sean especially. In Assassin's Creed 2, he was an asshole, but he's really grown on me as a character. I like him a lot, but I feel like they're just like, essentially the assassins in the present are searching for precursor artifacts, so they're essentially doing the same thing that Evie is doing in this game, which is just searching for the shroud. So it's sort of just a parallel, and yet it's just a cutscene that I see every 6 memories or something, which is, it's just sort of like half-hearted, like completely half-hearted, and I don't really like it at all. Can I knock him down? There's no way he's gonna stand up. No, he's the strongest man in the world. You've dropped your big brush.
You think you can scare me?
Get. What do you mean, get out?
Get out of here before I throw you out.
Are you gonna throw me out, are you? Oh God. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of half-hearted. I feel like they had a good thing going with Desmond until they killed him off randomly and without any reason to. Like, it sort of felt like it was building up to a game where you play as Desmond, because he was the present day character from the first game up until Assassin's Creed 3. And then they just killed him off, and then he wasn't in it anymore. And then Black Flag and Rogue had those first-person segments where you were just going around, like, unlocking audio diaries and like doing mini games and that sort of thing. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it more than just watching cutscenes of random people that I don't really care about that much. So I feel like they should probably either stop or find a more deeper way of telling a present day story. Like, I don't know, have larger sections. What are you doing? This man is not happy that he's in the rain.
But answer me this. If I am mad, why are there no more stray cats in London?
I think we went past the stray cat earlier, madman. Like, I'm gonna call you mad. You really don't want me to, but I'm gonna call you mad anyway, because I think I saw a stray cat earlier. Like, it was right beside me as I was climbing up a building. But yeah, so they should either commit to the present day stuff and like give you proper gameplay segments where you're actually running around like a city maybe, or like a small segment of a city, similar to how the World War I stuff is treated in this. It's only a small segment of London where you play as Jacob's granddaughter, but it's pretty effective. So I think that they should maybe go back to doing something like that. There's some random chairs here. Why? Oh, nice. I have 10 of these letters. So commit to it or don't do it at all. Like, don't have like half-hearted cutscenes that aren't even that interesting. Like, Just find a new protagonist. Stop living in Desmond's shadow. Present day stuff, please. Like they're sort of just hoping that Desmond's gonna come around again. They're like a weird, needy girlfriend or boyfriend that's like, oh, maybe Desmond will come back. Maybe Desmond's gonna call us. Desmond's dead. You really shit the bed on that one, Ubisoft. You killed off a pretty interesting character. Killed him off when you'd set him up to be the protagonist in a future game, and now he's dead. And it really shows that they sort of don't know what to do with the present day stuff. And in my opinion, if they're not going to do anything good, they might as well just get rid of it. Like, what's the point in like dwelling on something that's not even that great? But overall with this game, I think it's a pretty fantastic game. I think if I were to rate it out of 10, I would give it a 9.3, which would be fantastic on my rating system, because it's great story, good characters, it runs really well. I don't know if you've been able to tell in this video, but there has been no horrible frame rate drops. There is essentially nothing like that. There's weird bad glitches with the pedestrians, but that's sort of a thing that's just very common in open world games, especially Assassin's Creed. There's always weird pedestrians that are brushing things with their eyebrows and all that sort of stuff. So works really well. Fun using this rope stuff. It's fun climbing. It's fun driving around the city in a carriage. The world is beautiful. There are really great moments, like when you go on viewpoints and there's some nice atmospheric music plays a lot of the time, and Jacob and Evie are great. Some of the other characters are great as well. I think when they weren't shoving him down my throat, Alexander Graham Bell, who I actually haven't seen in what feels like years in this game, because I think it did all of his missions pretty early on. He was great. I liked Alexander Graham Bell. He's the inventor of the telephone, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this game. Very good. Apart from some gripes which I've mentioned, but nothing's perfect. So if you like this video, you should totally watch the rest of the videos. You should like and subscribe and tell all your friends about how great I am at making videos, because that would be really nice. But if you don't, then that's fair enough. I appreciate the sentiment and the view nonetheless. So I have been Scott. This is the SpoilerCast, episode 10 or 11, give or take 1 or 2, because as I said, I don't check the numbers. I don't have time for checking the facts and figures. If you want someone to check the facts and figures, you should hire an accountant. Get a maths teacher, maybe. Get someone who's good with numbers. That's the most important thing. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.